How's it going, everybody? WA7PBE here with a brand new video. Tuesdays I generally do a POTA video or a radio video. Today I'm doing something off the beaten path a little bit for me. I'm doing little tips and tricks. So I wanted to talk about how to select a park to activate for Parks on the Air. Now, this kind of already assumes that you know what Parks on the Air is and you already have the equipment to do it, and maybe you're just trying to figure out like how I figure out what parks to go activate in, which ones not to, what gear to bring, what gear not to bring. So you can see here I have a map of my local area. And this is kind of one of the easiest ways to figure out what park you want to go activate. Because if you look at a list, for instance, and then this park is probably about 2, maybe 3 hours away, and say Browns Branch Wildlife Management, and you're, oh, maybe I want to go there. But you look on the map and it's 2.5 hours away, and you're like, that might have to be a bit of a special trip. But it's like, well, I just want to go down the road somewhere. So this is down the road for me, Greenbelt Park. So if we look at the more info, some of the parks now have a little bar here that says information about the park. This one doesn't yet. But you can see it's been activated quite a few times by quite a few people. This is generally a good sign, meaning that it's easily accessible. Generally, it might mean that it might have some size to it. Although, if you see like the same person activating it over and over again, that may not necessarily be true. Maybe they just have a good setup for it. But you can also just kind of gauge by looking on the map as well. We see Greenbelt Park here. It's a fairly decent sized park. It even has a campground. That means you probably will have some space to play with. On the flip side, if we look somewhere like here, the Belmont Paul Women's Equality National Monument. That's a mouthful. But it's located in downtown Washington, D.C., right across the street from the United States Capitol. And it's only been activated 4 times. And you can see on here as well, must operate from what's inside the gate of the property, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, this is going to be a difficult place to activate because you're not going to exactly be able to put up an end-fed half-wave or, a big old antenna. You're going to be pretty much stuck to the premises of this property. So you're talking maybe a mag loop at the most. And you can just look, it's in the middle of the city. There's going to be lots of noise. It's going to be a challenging activation. Now, don't always rely on the POTA map to figure out where to go, because some of these parks may not be open. Famous example, Frederick Douglass National Historic Site. If we look on the more info for this, it says it's only open Friday and Saturday. Now let's go to the National Park site for this. In fact, it's right here. We don't even have to search it. Well, look at that. It's closed. Frederick Douglass National Historic Site is closed beginning March 1st until 2023. So you really need to pay attention to the associated websites, whether it be the Fish and Wildlife Service, National Park Service, State Park Service, whatever. Whoever runs the park, make sure you check on that website and say, hey, can I actually go there and play ham radio? Also, it doesn't hurt to ask. If you happen to go by a park ranger, and it's a kind of delicate place like Frederick Douglass National Memorial or something, say, hey, is it okay if I play ham radio here? 99% of the time they're going to say okay. There might be 1 or 2 parks where they say, no, we can't have you doing that here for whatever reason. Now also be aware there are parks such as, this one near me, the Bowen Wildlife Management Area. If you click on the more info for this one, it's never been activated. There's probably a good reason for that, because if we go look it up, you will see that on the Maryland Department of Natural Resources website, it says that it is accessible only by boat. So, again, this is why it's really important to research what parks you want to go to. Sometimes the closest park may not always be the most accessible park. And in order to have a successful activation, you need to be able to get into the park first. In fact, I encountered this weekend where at Patuxent National Wildlife Refuge, the north gate here was closed. So I had to go all the way around and activate from where this lake is right here. So that was a bit of an annoyance, and that was a lesson learned. It was a good lesson learned. Also, by researching the parks, you're going to figure out what equipment you can and can't bring. So, for instance, with like the Belmont Paul Women's Equality National Monument or whatever it's called, that's in the middle of Washington, D.C., you're not going to put up a 70-foot long end-fed half-wave. Unless you want the Capitol Police to say, what are you doing? Don't do that. But if you just stand there with a mag loop looking like a crazy person, they're probably not going to care too much. On the flip side, if you go somewhere like Greenbelt Park, like I was saying, there's lots of space. You can put up an end-fed half-wave, not a problem. I've had park rangers come by and say hello to me when I had an end-fed half-wave up, and they didn't really care. As long as I'm not messing with the nature or messing with other people, generally the park rangers and other people won't care. And in fact, you might actually gauge interest for the hobby. So there is a benefit to that. Another thing to consider too is time of year and time of season. So, for instance, if you have a park that's on top of a mountain and it's the middle of winter and you get a lot of snow, it'll be a little difficult. Not impossible, but a little difficult. Flip side of that is, you have a park in the middle of the desert. You may not want to go there in the middle of the summer, right? So I think this video should help some people in thinking a little differently about how they go and choose what park to activate and where to activate and when to activate. As always, be sure you follow the rules of the park. Remember, this is a hobby in a hobby, and we want to be able to keep doing this for as long as possible. But if people start going to parks and acting like lids, to put it nicely, we won't be able to do this in some of these amazing places. So that's all I have for you all today. I will see you all on Thursday on the podcast. The links for the Discord is in the description, as well as Patreon if you like this, or buy me a coffee. I'll go ahead and wish you all 7 threes and have an excellent day.